Hello everyone, Chickenkeeper here, welcome back to Kerbal Space Program, and in this video I'm presenting my contribution to the International YouTuber Space Station. This was conceived by Ryan the Solar Gamer and Try Dying to Live, I believe. And it's basically a community project where lots of YouTubers pass around their save files and keep adding lots of pieces to a space station to make it as big and as awesome as possible. Here I decided to make a hotel and make a neon sign for it out of lights. That's mainly the reason why I made a hotel in the first place. I wanted to do something with lights because that's kind of like my party trick in KSP. On a live stream with PDTV, I think it was. Yeah, it was PDTV. We did a sort of a miniature version of this. Each person had an hour to add their pieces, and I added a little sign on the top that, using a lot of action groups and finding a bug in the process, I made it able to display the words fuel here and open. I'm just wishing that there was some sort of mechanism of automating them so you could cycle between them every few seconds automatically. That'd be quite cool. But I did find a bug with, well, not a bug, but a problem. It's an actual thing that hasn't been added yet to the action groups menu, which is simply that there's no scroll bar. If you have so many action groups that it goes off the bottom of the page, you can't scroll. And when you've got like 20 lights or more, and each one has several different options as to what configuration they're in when you press certain buttons, it can get a little confusing. And if there's a problem with a specific light, you can't actually scroll down to remove or correct the action group at all. So you have to kind of start from the beginning. The rocket I'm using here, that I'm just building, is basically the same, well, a very similar one to the one I used to launch my space station core. The only difference with it is that it worked straight away, and the entire mission went perfectly smoothly. It's actually probably one of the best missions I have ever done, which is very different to my personal space station core, where it kept on imploding in on itself. But I think the space station core, my personal one, was a lot heavier than this. It's got the same design where it's got the two sections where it's got two probe control section things. So it's got like a towing, an orbital insertion stage that's also like a tug, like a space tug, so that once you've docked the bit that's supposed to be docked, you can then deorbit that other bit of debris, so it's not left as debris. Although that did kind of cause problems, as you might see. This is me just testing out the rocket and just messing around a bit, making explosions. Haha. And then doing some tests, doing some changes, because it's a good job I tested, because there were a lot of problems with it. One of them was, I'll put the rules in the description, but in a nutshell, you could only use 50 parts maximum for the bit that docked with the space station. I used exactly 50. You can only use one module per person, name it after yourself, vanilla parts only, no mods, and you have to have an open docking port, at least one open docking port after you've docked, which means putting a minimum of 2 docking ports on the ship. So I had to remove one of the solar panels, but even then, a single solar panel produces more than enough power for all those lights, weird enough. It's kind of a wobbly rocket when it takes off, but it's very, very stable. The only problem is it likes to rotate around a bit. This is a speed run of actually getting into orbit. The whole orbit thing was fine. I actually had fuel to spare when I finished it. I needn't have used nuclear engines, because the nuclear engines are obviously nowhere near as powerful as the liquid engines. They're both liquid engines. I mean the other engines that you can use, the LV909s? No, that's the mini one. LV45, something or other. You know the ones I mean. But at the end of it, I ended up with more. Oh, bycat. I ended up with more than half a tank of fuel left, so I didn't have actually used the atomic engines. It's just a precaution, really. So although the lower thrust did present a bit of a problem, because if here I'm setting up the maneuver node to actually do my orbital insertion burn, but the lower thrust with such a heavy ship and such a hard to turn ship as well meant that it did take longer than I thought to get into orbit. But luckily I managed it. RCS was a problem with it, actually, because I realised that with such a massively heavy ship, I would need several RCS ports and a lot of RCS fuel. I estimated about 1.5 tanks to get actually docked and everything, but I'd probably end up using a bit more than that, just, you know, human error. And then I thought, why not? I'll shove a third tank on just to be sure. So I disabled the tank on the hotel module, and I'm just using the RCS on the rest of the ship, just so I don't drain the hotel tank. Because then the tank on the hotel module can be used as an extra refueling tank on the space station if necessary. Though one massive problem with the space station itself was that someone, Scott Manley, had left a ton of debris, like a cloud of debris, around the space station. You can't modify the space station when you get it. You can only add pieces to it. But there was a ton of debris around the space station, so targeting it was quite difficult, just because of it's kind of temperamental with which one you target. But I managed to target it anyway, and rendezvousing was really smooth. Here I'm just sort of correcting for errors and stuff. It was slightly imbalanced, so I was using advanced SAS and wasting a lot of RCS, though I had more than enough to spare, so that wasn't really a concern. So once I was lined up, I was kind of just taxiing towards it. You might have seen at the start of the video, it sort of flashed by, so you'll know you might know what it looks like roughly. But I sort of got up nice and close, and then jettisoned the other bit, so I could then maneuver around with the RCS to actually dock the bit. But I didn't cancel all of my vertical velocity, not one, just general velocity. My relative velocity, I should say. So when I actually did, and I should have spun the ship round to prevent this, so when I actually jettisoned the lower half of the ship, I actually left it moving towards the station very, very slowly. So that led to some kind of interesting manoeuvring involving almost smashing a solar panel and trying to hurry up just in case the lower half did actually bump into the station, which I didn't want. Here we go, I've jettisoned now. You can see it gradually moving away. Luckily, nothing went wrong, but yeah, this was kind of tricky. The lights are on so I can see where I'm going. Ooh. Yeah, that was very close, especially because I had actually scraped it and it was spinning around, and there's my solar panel. I had to very quickly spin around just to prevent it from smashing my solar panel. And a couple more bumps later. I didn't lose any pieces, luckily. Whoa, there you go. That was very, very close, but I managed it, so I'm fine with that. Yeah, and orientation was a bit tricky with this one, because the space station was sort of 45 degrees off, so a lot of this was estimating, and also because I put the solar panel on the side, the whole ship was actually rotated sideways, just so the solar panel was in a good place, so that it didn't obstruct anything. But that meant, yeah, that I was rotated 90 degrees, so I actually had no idea which button I was pressing to translate with. Also, because I was using fine control as I got up close, I couldn't actually see which thruster was firing. So that made it very tricky, and I very nearly missed. Though I managed to correct it last minute. Here's me just sort of wondering which way around I should put it. I'm trying to hurry up before night time comes. There's a bit floating. I think it's floating away now. Yeah, and then I go off on an incredibly overcomplicated and very slow docking sequence. In fact, the whole mission was kind of overcomplicated and slow, but my excuse is that I was being careful. Just to not destroy anything. Yeah, here we go. Moving in very slowly, trying to make sure I was perfectly adjusted. Because I was moving so slowly, I couldn't actually rely on the indicator to tell me where I was, because it was just flickering around all over the place. So I had to eyeball it. Yeah, this took a while. But I wanted to make sure it was absolutely perfect. Seeing as how well the rest of the mission had gone, I didn't want to accidentally last minute slam something and break a solar panel or split the whole ship in two. Yeah, this is me getting completely confused as to which thruster was firing. And realising I'm far too far to the left. And dock. Okay, I managed it. So there's my hotel section on the side. Quite bulky. Actually, I think they thought that my hotel section was bigger than the core of the space station itself. So, at least what I've seen of the IYSS so far, it looks a bit disproportionate until other people add their parts onto it as well. But there you go, there's the lights on. They're going to be left permanently on, so that people know where the hotel is. Unfortunately, because I didn't have enough spare parts to add, I couldn't add any lights along the side of it, so you could actually, so it would illuminate the docking ports and stuff, so that you could see the rest of the thing at night. But at least I got the sign on, so that was alright. Just means that pilots might have to wait till daytime to see where they're going properly. So now that was docked, I return the other stage back home, so it's not cluttering up the place, and just so that other ships don't smash into it. Because this thing uses a very small drone part that's offset, rotating it around and steering it was very, very slow. I also completely forgot to add any kind of SAS module to it, and more importantly, I didn't actually turn on the RCS while I was trying to rotate it around, which would have made it much quicker because it had RCS ports and everything. Thermoelectric generators for power and stuff. But yeah, I had more than enough fuel. Even after I deorbited, I had tons and tons and tons of fuel left. But I wanted to make sure I was nice and far away from the space station before throttling the engines up completely, just in case I do something horribly wrong. And throttle up. Nope, not yet. Oh, there we go, throttle up. Yeah, the drone parts use very, very tiny gyroscopes, so they're not really ideal for trying to stabilise. There you go, I'm completely going off because it was slightly imbalanced. I put a battery on the other side to help balance it, but it was still, I think, 0.2 Kerbal units too big still. Too heavy on one side still, which was a bit unfortunate, but at least I managed to deorbit before it started spinning around. I never really remember to turn on the RCS. In fact, it's only when I said that I actually realised that I had never turned the RCS on. But I crashed it into the ocean, so it's now the Kerbals that live on that continent that now have to deal with all the nuclear waste I've just dumped into the ocean. Yeah, it might have been better to put it on an escape trajectory or something and crash it into the sun, but oh well. So I did it. The whole launch went nice and smoothly. It was nice and quick. Well, I had 48 hours to actually do the flight, so relatively quick. I'm looking forward to actually seeing other people's videos to see what else was added and who added what as well. After my go. It's just all the batteries. This thing has more than enough power to spare, as in, you know, reserve power and generate, and how much generating power it has. But anyway, that was my section, and I will see you in the next Kerbal Space Program Let's Play. Subscribe for more, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.